Whether it's you now as a student and you have to learn new concepts, equations, formulas, subjects, or it's you later down the line when you have your own kids.
Oh, my back's been blown out.
You need to like learn about the new trends.
What the f is a sigma? What the fuck is this shit, bro? What the f?
So like the brand new technology that's come out.
VR girlfriend 2.0. What the fuck?
We can all agree that learning and being a lifelong student is crucial. You see how fast society is evolving, and you have to be willing to learn to succeed. Learn or die. Learning how to learn and being a lifelong student is a huge asset to have. Did you know that it's the #1 most desirable trait that companies have? Being open to learn and being a quick learner is the thing that they value the most, because everyone realizes that we're in a changing society. So your ability to learn dictates your ability to survive and thrive, directly correlating to your wealth, status, and everything, right? So this is the one thing that will set you apart from others. But the thing is, you can learn this skill. You can learn how to learn. As Henry Ford said, anyone who stops learning is old at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. And so how can we actually learn how to learn? Learn more in less time. The first principle comes from Josh Waitzkin. Josh Waitzkin was a chess master. And that's pretty impressive. A lot of people like play chess for like the whole of their lives and they still don't reach that title. But do you know what's even more impressive? He was also the world champion at Tai Chi. Now, this is ever more impressive because very rarely do you see someone who's so dominant in two unrelated areas. Like imagine if like Michael Jordan was also known for being like ranked #1 coder, right? That's unimaginable because it takes so much time and effort to get to the elite level of one thing, yet alone two. But there is actually something that connects the two of those activities that Josh was so good at, and it's his ability to learn. He's a master learner. And he said, each time you act, adjust and repeat, you make an incremental improvement. I don't know if you guys have played the guitar before, and I know for me, like I've only like fiddled around with it for like fun. But basically how you play a guitar is basically you put like your fingers on like the fret, on like the correct ones that they tell you to, and then you strum with like this hand, like hey yo, wait. And then you strum with your right hand, I think. Might be the other way around. I'm a noob. But the point is, when you first do it, it's gonna sound weird. You strum and then it's like the notes sound really weird. This isn't the right thing. And so you're like, okay, let me try like arching my fingers a little bit more. So then you do like a different like finger technique, right? And then you try again and it sounds a little bit better. It's a clearer tone, but it's still a little bit flat. So you keep trying again and again. You keep like adjusting your fingers and trying until you get the tone that you want. Each correction builds knowledge. There's a quote I really like, and it's like, success lies on a mountain of mistakes. Without making those mistakes, it's impossible to get the perfect strum sound in the first take, because we use the mistakes and like we tried this and it sounded weird, and we use that as like a platformer and base to improve on our next attempt. Making mistakes actually means you're on the right path. Students and me as well, I was always like so devastated and like afraid of making mistakes, right? I wouldn't do past papers because like I'd always get a low score and I feel demotivated. But the thing is, if you're making mistakes, you're on the right path. You want to be making as much mistakes as possible. After a workout, if my muscles aren't sore, I know that workout wasn't that good and I didn't push myself to my limits. If you're not making mistakes while you study, it's the same principle. You know you're not studying correctly. When you make mistakes, it means you're on the right path. It means you're actively learning. That's why the most effective way to learn is to drill your mistakes and weaknesses. Training your weaknesses and unblocking that like bottleneck, it allows you to piece together the whole thing. Same with learning. Like when you find the mistake, you like unblock that thing that was blocking you from like understanding the whole concept. It's when you make mistakes you can unblock these and find your weaknesses. Did you know that brain scans prove that students who spend time correcting mistakes exhibit more mental activity, and when you fight through a problem, more neural pathways are formed? It's when you're struggling to learn, it's when you're making mistakes, that's what increases your mental capacity. It's when your muscles are under the most load at the gym, where you're literally like making like demon faces and like you're like making moaning sounds. That's when you're making the most progress in the gym, right? Same with learning. You have to make it difficult because that's what's proven to actually make you progress. So an actionable step is, next time you study or whatever you're learning, like this could be anything, right? Piano, whatever, you have to make the task difficult enough that you actually do make mistakes. If you just do like easy questions, like level 1 type questions, or like I just play like Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano over and over again, I wouldn't make mistakes, but at the same time I'm not learning. Make the mistakes and make sure to practice them. A quick analogy I'll give is Apple used to like give like millions to hackers. Basically they used to say like, if you can jailbreak this phone, we'll give you millions. But why would they want to pay someone to find like the flaws in their security? It's because the ability to make a mistake and be able to like be shown that, like be able to be told by the hackers like, oh look, this has a flaw, being told where the holes are in their security, their mistakes, that's so valuable because that's one like hole that you patched up and you'll never make that mistake again. If Apple's paying millions, if tech companies are paying like millions and billions to find these mistakes, and you're able to find them for free by just doing a little bit more of a difficult task, doing past papers, does that not tell you something? Number 2, adopt a learning student mindset. You have to believe you can learn. You guys probably know that Ruff came up to do an interview in my student accelerator program, link in the description by the way, and I asked him like, what's the #1 thing that stops students from achieving? And he said it's literally just self-belief. It's a lot of the time like students believe that they can't learn and they think that they're dumb, and that's making them underachieve. You have to have a growth mindset. Growth mindset basically means having neuroplasticity. Basically means every time you constantly learn and you improve, like your brain is also like improving as well. You have to view your abilities as a starting point where you can build upon. We all know like not everyone starts with like the same level, right? Like obviously, but there's the people who have like the fixed mindset and believe like, okay, well, I'm born with this, so I can't fix that. I'm gonna be stuck with that for the rest of my life. But then there's also the people who just see that as a starting point and an opportunity to build on top of that. You have to explore your full potential. In the book The Limitless Mind, Joe Bowler said that your brain forms new connections each time you learn, and research shows that your attitude towards learning has a direct impact on your level of brain functions. It's as simple as giving your brain some undeniable proof that you're learning right now. And real ones know that quote from Mimosi, like, confidence isn't like shouting affirmations at yourself in the mirror, but it's having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. You are a student. You're literally watching a video about learning. You're learning. Like that's only like, I don't know, top 1% of students do that. Remember that like maths concept that no one understood, but you were the one to like solve it. You are like more capable than you think. You have to start to eliminate unhelpful beliefs. I always used to think that I'm just trash at history because I got this like low grade once, and that's called learned helplessness, right? I always thought like no matter what I do, like I revise, I was capped as an 8, and I was basically like my #1 hater. I was capping myself. You have to find the facts. I probably worked harder than anyone in my history class because I wanted to get that grade up from an 8 to a 9. I mean, I hope I got a 9, bro, but you never know. But the point is, whatever the result was, it acted as like a piece in like the cookie jar, as David Goggins said. It's like something that I'm always able to refer back to. I was the person who like learned harder. I was the one who like worked harder to try and increase my grades, and so that showed me that I am like one of the best students. And those kind of beliefs, like the beliefs form into your actions, and actions are what gets you the results. Jade Bowler warns that a negative mindset triggers a fear of failure, leads to procrastination and a lack of motivation. Make sure to eliminate all of those. And the third thing is the myth of learning styles. Science shows that you learn best when you utilize multiple styles at once. That was just kind of like trend on YouTube, and I know you've definitely watched a video on it. And it's basically saying like there's 4 types of learning. There's like visual, auditory, there's like basically like kind of gaming avatars. Like 4, you have to choose one, and then basically you're that one and you have to learn that way. I think I made a video on that as well, and I'm kind of guilty of that. But science shows that that's actually really untrue. When you say like you're only a visual learner, you're cutting out all the other ways to learn, because it's kind of like you're setting a boundary for yourself. Because I'm only a visual learner, I'm only going to learn visually, whereas you're actually missing out on a lot of like effective studying and learning by not doing the other things. Learning styles are false, and you actually get the benefit by engaging multiple senses, and everyone learns best when like the teaching learning style matches the subject. Now what does this mean? Example, for sciences and like concepts, a lot of the time it's just like all textbook theory, right? And so we learn best visually in that regard, because when we could see like the visual like animations, like for example, shout out to like a Cognito, like saving my science grades, when you can see like the microscopic levels, like we can't actually see them, but when they're in the form of an animation and we could see it visually, we learn so much faster. And that's why for like science and like conceptual based things, learning through videos are really effective. Whereas for music, right, I'm not gonna learn best by looking at the score, like because everything in music we learn through like the scores. And so oppositely, for music, I'm gonna learn best when I'm actually listening to the piece while also referring to the score. As you can see how for each subject, you're gonna learn best by doing a different study technique. Multisensory learning, connecting to multiple sensory inputs creates more synaptic connections in your brain. Basically means you learn better when there's multiple senses involved. Easier to remember because there's more neural pathways to retrieve the idea. For example, if you're learning about combustion reactions in chemistry, one way to learn is literally to learn the chemical formulas. I know like Cu2 plus like O2 goes to like copper oxide, right? If you just learn that, you know a combustion reaction. Yet if you actually did the experiment in like school, whatever, you remember the smell, you remember what it looked like, you remember like how the crystals looked, you remember like how there was like black soot underneath. Suddenly like the smell, sights, like the formula, they all come together for you to be able to remember that. In the test, if it asks you to describe the combustion reaction of copper, suddenly you have 3 different things to relate to. Even if you get 2 of them, you still have 1 left. An actionable step you can do is to watch videos explaining and walkthroughs, and that's how I use that for maths, and they go through like all the difficult topics and like questions, and I'm able to see how it's done in front of me. Make sure to do self-testing. That's the one thing that's unanimous for all of the study, like different techniques and styles. It's like that person who trains for a boxing fight, never doing like a mock sparring fight. You never know what might happen, and so you always have to test yourself, whether it's through past papers or like exams at your school. Make sure to note down where you are to see your progress. If you like what you're watching so far and you really want to like become that student, you might want to check out Student Accelerator. It's my program that's helping students from all around the world become the best student that they can be. And if you want to find out more, click the first link in the description. But back to the video. I hope that helped, and I hope you can see how learning is really a valuable skill, whoever you are. You have to learn to thrive, or you'll be dead and left behind. Ooh. As always, take action, and I'll see you next time. Bye.